Hey everyone, you're watching Ash on Comics. My name's Ash. Here's today's comic, Prodigy, by Mark Millar. I know it's Mark Miller, but it sounds so plain, and there's so many Millers in comics, I always have to try to enunciate that R just to differentiate him. And then Ralph Albuquerque. Image Comics. This is part of the Netflix comics. I don't know why they put their logo on the back and not somewhere on the front like Skybound does. But this is the Netflix Millerverse, published by Image Comics. Prodigy is he's a prodigy. He's basically super at everything. And not just at normal human prodigy levels, he's superhuman prodigy. He makes Reed Richards look stupid. At first, when I was reading, I was like, oh, I kind of rolled my eyes, and I was like, this book, it's like too much. Like, he can do anything to the nth degree that's just beyond impossible. And then I told myself, Ash, this is comic books, dude. Like, why are you nitpicking so much? And I was like, oh yeah, this is supposed to be like fantasy, and like this is a world where people from another planet gain godlike powers just because of a different color sun. Why am I nitpicking this again? So I was like, okay, let's just jump in for the ride and suspend our disbelief and look at the book. Now, the first two books are out. This is issue number 3. And I've been enjoying it. It hasn't been great, but it's been a good example of Mark Millar's talent as a writer. He's very efficient at storytelling, and these current books that he's writing, I think because he's so huge now and he's pumping out so much stuff, I think these current books are kind of suffering in the sense that they're almost formulaic. It's like he's almost on autopilot. It's kind of what I blame Bendis for, but only to a really small fraction. This isn't the classic Millar stuff that you could tell was like really inspired, like Kick-Ass, Kingsman, his Marvel stuff. So, but that's okay. Even Mark Millar, if I say Millar, just understand that's like purposely. If I say Mark Millar, Millar on a bad day is still better than most writers, especially in modern comics where the bar is pretty low. So, Prodigy number 3, let's get at it. If you remember, the main plot of this whole big story is that there's an alternate Earth, and they're trying to invade this Earth for reasons unknown. I thought the book opened up really cool here. We see... I'm so bad with names. I read so many books, but we see here our protagonist and his lovely assistant. Gosh, I'm sorry, I forget her name. She's CIA... She's just an ass kicker. She's there to be Robin to his Batman. Okay, so they're fighting people. Oh, okay, what's going on? Next scene. This is a pretty cool, shot. You're not your typical superhero. I don't know if you can hear the ice cream man outside. Perfect timing. This is not your normal superhero action shots. This is like a very more realistic martial art. But I appreciated that. And of course she's just punching. Whatever. I'm not going to keep my comments to myself on that. So yeah, he's he's using his martial arts because of course he probably knows 12 martial arts. And then they zoom out more. And this is reminded me of another Miller, Frank Miller, esque type of way to do things. You're like, whoa, he's fighting. Oh, he's fighting a lot of people. Oh, he's fighting on a train. What the, I thought that was really cool as I was skimming down. I'm like, okay, he's fighting. Oh shit, there's a lot of fight. Okay, that's it. Holy shit, what? And I was like, that's neat. So the whole thing from the last issue is that they're looking for this ancient scroll, which they broke into the Kremlin to get this thing, but it was gone. So they're like, now they're gonna have to actually retrace all the steps that the scroll, to get the information, basically recreate the efforts that made the scroll in the first place. So, because they got to do things the hard way. So they're in Tibet and they're doing this thing. And this narrative was a little bit funky for me. So they're in there, and then it's like cuts back to the train. Burn in hell, Professor. And he's like, shit. It doesn't matter how smart you are. If the train blows up on a bridge like this, you're dying. So he's scared. He's like, run. Well, he didn't say that yet, but boom. And you see it started happening. And it's like now it's cut back at their Angkor Wat in Cambodia. Where now? Pakistan, exactly as I predicted. Back to present day, run, get out of the way, you idiots. And then big, huge explosion, splash page. And then it's like back again. So they're like cutting back to basically the journey that got them to where they are now. And I didn't catch that at first. So I was like, what? Why is it going? Were they on the train again? Now they're on a new train? No, I don't get this. But I got it eventually. I'm a little slow-witted, but I got it. So Millar tells the story of the different travels that they've gone up to so far. And it's kind of genius because it catches you, the reader, up to speed of what these people have done since the last issue without wasting a lot of exposition, right? And it keeps you in the action. You're like, so once I realized what he was doing, I was like, oh, this is cool. So I get this action scene, and I'm sort of being filled in at the same time. Here's what happened, that you missed. Oh, cool. And I didn't feel like I needed 2 pages of, let me tell you, okay, now let's go to an action scene. He weaves it in really, really cleverly. I just think maybe it's the artist's fault, I'm not sure. But I think maybe he could have conveyed that so the reader went in a little bit more smoothly. That's just me. It's not a deal breaker. And this was interesting here. So they're falling, right? And you see, he's like, Rachel, grab the case. I'll catch you, I promise. And she's like falling. Down, reach, and boom, catches her. Pakistan. So all those little scenes, now they're in Pakistan. So all the little flashback scenes have caught up to the present. Here's where they are. It looks like you're out of options, Professor. There are 2 gunmen looking down on him. If your friend lets go, she loses our book. If you let go, you lose everything. As for us, well, the expression shooting fish in a barrel comes to mind. And then, at first, this came off really cheesy to me, and I was kind of groaning. But so he just looks up at him, and he kind of pulls the same stunt with these guys as he did with her, where he can know all about someone just by looking at him. Again, I was like, okay, stop, Ash, it's comics. And he says, is this what you wanted to be when you grew up? A hired thug whose life is dictated by other people for a small financial reward every week to buy things that will never make them happy? Excuse me? Your father walked out of you when you were 5 years old. Your stepfather, I suspect, put you in the hospital on more than one occasion. Your mother always sided with them, and that broke your heart, didn't it? Professor, stop teasing with these guys with guns. And they're looking at him. He's like, you're better than the path you started on when you ran away from home. I'll tell you the life you would like if you want. Come closer and I'll tell you everything that you've been doing wrong. And they look at each other. And they're like, oh. And they decide to help him. Help them up, please. Careful not to hurt him. We're so sorry, Professor. She's just like, what the fuck? And they hug. You've nothing to be sorry about, Dinesh. You're a product of circumstance, and circumstances change. Let's create a version of you that doesn't feel so lost. So this started off to me, and I was like, no way, this wouldn't happen. This is so, so there's this idea called ring true, right? And so a lot of times we say, that's not realistic, and then people argue, well, it's a fantasy, it's not real, or it's fiction, it's not real. And it's like, yes, that is true. But even in fiction, even in fantasy, superhero comics, or whatever, this world, this universe has its own laws and reality in the way things work. And even when you're writing fantasy and fiction, you need to write within those laws, right? If your characters break the rules of their world, then it's not, that's what we say, not realistic. Right? So ring true means kind of that. Does this ring true? I'm reading this, even in this world would this happen, and I'm like, it's not ringing true. Like, I know he's a super prodigy, but he just one glance at someone he knows at 5 years old. So then again, I have to be like, okay, Ash, comic books. Like, this is like a superpower. This guy is a superpower. He's not just smart. He's superhuman smart. He's Superman. Instead of Superman's muscles, he's got the equivalent of that in brains, right? So it's like, okay, let's play with this. And then I started to see what Mark Millar was doing here. And I was like, wait a minute. This is kind of the genius of this guy. So these guys were like little Cobra thugs, right? Little like working on peanut paychecks because their lives are nothing. They can't do anything with their lives. They've effed it up, whatever. And this is the best they can accomplish. This guy, this super genius guy now, he's like, let's create a visionary so lost. And I was right. He goes off and is like, are you really going to give those guys jobs? I saw something broke in them, Rachel, an inner dignity and a search for some kind of purpose in life. I'll use them to run a post-capitalist micro-society I'm building on a New Zealand South Island, and I have a feeling they're going to do very well. And then he goes on, they talk about other stuff, and I was like, this is exactly, I saw this idea before I got to this page, and I was like, dude, the first thing I thought, I was like, he saves these guys, which is a little bit, stretching imagination, suspension of disbelief, but he rescues these guys. These guys will take bullets for him now, right? Whereas before, it's just like, I'm getting a check as best I can do. This guy changed their life by a little bit of sympathy, having a human heart, and so forth. And now, and I'm like, that is what a genius would do. And I was like, oh, that rings true. That is, genius, so to speak. So here they are, more adventures. They're traveling the world trying to recreate steps, and it's like, he dives underwater, and he's, look, nice adventure. And this whole book is very much like a modern day Indiana Jones in the way it's this adventure, right? Obviously, the character's different and stuff, but just the way the story is told, it's all over the world, and you got some big set pieces, like a fight on a train, and really like this. And as I was reading this book, I was thinking, this is not written like a comic book. This is written like a movie. In fact, when I was reading it, I was like, this feels, if you've ever read a comic book adaptation of a movie, comic book adaptations never feel right. You're just like, this isn't how it really would be written like as a comic book, but then, they're adapting the movie. This feels like it's a comic book adaptation of a movie I haven't seen. It's just written, it's almost too efficient. A comic book I think would have taken more time to do things, and they just brush right through. But I think to myself, in a movie, this panel to here, like there would be actual motion and time going on. And this is very cinematic. It comes across in these set pieces, it's like, oh, now he's underwater and a shark comes by, and he's like, oh, he's got to fight the shark, and meanwhile, these pirates are invading the ship with a woman's on it, and she's like, we got company, and he's like, I'm busy, and he's like, can you throw me my gun? And she's like, when I asked for it, so he's like, are you still needing that gun? As soon as I give the word, please. And he's like, you ready? I'm ready. And he's like, you just notice he doesn't have his breathing tank anymore. He's holding his breath. And it's like, boom, boom. He does this thing. And she turns around. And it's like, ba, ba, ba. Shoots, boom, boom, boom. Because she's super badass. And shoots them all in the head. And she's like, Rachel, now throw me the gun. And she's, tosses the gun overboard. Which, of course, sinks down to him. Bloop. And he grabs it. And he's just like shooting sharks underwater. Like when you're just... This comic book is so absurd that once you just decide, okay, let go. Just let go and take me on this ride. And you think to yourself, if this was a movie, like think back to Kingsman, right? The movie Kingsman. Like so many absurdities happen in that movie. On the page, you would just go, I don't know. this is kind of the same way where I'm just like, on a page, it's absurd, but I think if this is a movie, I'd be having fun right now. He's underwater, sharks are coming at him, and, big action scene, he's shooting them. And then he gets up, and she's like, could this mission get any weirder? Please don't tell anyone I killed all those beautiful sharks, to which I cringed a slight bit, because I was like, oh, this is such a lefty thing to be like, I don't care about the death of humans, but animals mean something. But I was like, whatever, that's not ticky-tacky on that. So now they're in Damascus. Again, they're traveling all over. And so, he's talking. This is where I get Indiana Jones, right? Because this is like Sabella, and he's like talking to him. And there's a scene, too, here where he says, where is it? She asks him a question. I think it's on the next page. So they're just having a bunch of dialogue that I'm not going to read to you. And it's important for the story and finding out what's going on. And they need to raise, suffice to say, they need to raise $2 million. And they're just like, oh, can we wire the money? It's like, why waste time? There's plenty around locally. An old girlfriend of mine runs a high-end poker game, so of course he's going to play poker. He's like, I can earn that like in an hour. Right? And then he's on his way out. Then, of course, he's always showing off how smart he is. He's like, here's the answers to your homework, by the way. Which I don't think an actual genius would really do. Like, kid, cheating is not the way to get smart, right? So that seemed a little weird to me. But he's like, and your manager's stealing money from the cash register, Rafiq. He found himself a mistress with very high, expensive tastes. So he's off to earn money in a poker game. And so 1 hour later, he's like, he's quite the guy, isn't he? How'd you two meet? And again, this is reinforcing what I was saying. He saved my life, Agent Strox. When we met, I was ex-special forces suffering from a post-traumatic stress disorder and begging on the streets of Aleppo. I was an alcoholic and a drug addict and on the brink of suicide when he stopped and sat with me, talking for hours and figuring out a rescue plan. He took me to Thailand and spent the next 3 months living on the beach and working through all of my problems until I felt like a different person. And she's just like, what? Holy shit. It's like, he does that, He finds people who have lost all hope and takes great pleasure in bringing them back. That's the story behind all of his assistants back in the United States. I don't know where he finds the time. She's just like, impressive. But I think that line is kind of key here. I don't know where he finds the time. Because that hit me too when he was talking. I was like, okay, that's great that he's a super great person. He helps people and all this stuff. But this kind of person just doesn't have that time to spend 3 months. Like, I found some dude on the street, so I'm going to spend 3 months helping him out. There's so many downtrodden people in the world. Where does he find the time? So when he got to this line, I was like, oh, maybe there's a key to that. Maybe that's something we need to know more of. All right. So we get back, and of course he's won all this money from poker, just like he knew he would. Like, ooh, wasn't sure. And of course, just like cliche, when someone wins big in poker, everyone else pulls out guns. But they're radioing like, everything okay, sir? He's just smiling. Time will tell. And there we go, back to the theme. I don't know if that's just coincidental or what, but time will tell. So that's the end of this issue. And that's it. Review is longer than I thought. I tried to blast through it, but this book, it's not necessarily better than the other two books, but it's coming together now. I don't know if it's part of me just like releasing and just being like, let's just have fun with the book, Ash. Just stop being on, nitty gritty with all these little points and just go and I was like, oh yeah. And once I was treating this like an action film, I was like, I'm on for the ride. And I would love to see this adapted as a film, even though it's not the most brilliant comic book. It's not Batman Year One or something, but some things can't be adapted as easy. This could be adapted super easy and be really fun. So I'm liking this. This is thumbs up. If you were kind of iffy on Prodigy, I can kind of understand why, but I think this third issue has really come together and is worth your time. If you're into what you saw. Obviously there's only so many books for us to buy. Over 300 come out every month. So you got to be picky and choosy, but I'm enjoying this one. I'm going to keep buying it, keep reviewing it. If you like these types of things, and look out for other Mark Millar books. I find them on Comixology all the time. There's past trades and different things. Wanted is a really good one. Nemesis is a really fantastic one. Of course, there's Kick-Ass. There's actually 2 Kick-Asses, and there's Hit Girl. You've got the book that The Kingsman was based off of. So he's got quite a bit of stuff. Nemesis and Wanted are really. If you saw the Wanted movie, don't judge the comic on that. So, thanks for watching. It's 20 minutes, and I'm out.